Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for waiting for me. Let's give ourselves a second to make sure everything's up and running, to make sure you can see me live. See, I can see myself live and the other viewers can see it recorded afterwards, but you can't see me immediately live. So you're going to have to wait a couple of seconds. And we're finally here. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I hope you all can hear me well. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me for our regular live stream. All of the members, subscribers, and new viewers as well. Thank you so much for joining in. I posted a video earlier on. You see, I had a bit of a backlog, so everything had to be delayed this evening. Firstly, there was such a long list of attacks on Israel today. But you have to do more work. Combining all of the information from all of the resistance movements. 6 resistance in total. If you haven't watched my video, go and watch it afterwards. I detailed everything today. But 6 resistance movements, that's an unprecedented number of a combined force attack. What I didn't speak about, because that video was very technical, very detailed. But what I didn't speak about, someone is telling me about the audio is bouncing. Let me just... How's the audio now? Is it better now? Tell me how it is and then we can continue. Yeah? Perfect. Okay, excellent. Small setting in the mic, ladies and gentlemen. That's all it takes. So, I spoke about the details. Stephen, thank you so much for your super. But what I didn't speak about really is a couple of things. Obviously, apart from the strength of the Palestinian resistance, their coordination, the fact that they're very well and functioning, matter of fact, even more than before. But the cohesion. You see, Israel during this genocide, they attempted to not only commit genocide against the Palestinian people and ethnically cleanse them, but stir division between them. This is how they do. Divide and rule. Firstly, look what your leadership got you to. Then, oh, look, there's Hamas billionaires roaming around the world. Hamas billionaire. Then you had France apparently freezing the assets of Yahya Sinwar. What, does he have a property next to the Champs-Élysées or something, or next to the Eiffel Tower? What are these people talking about? Anyway, then by restricting the aid. And now the attempt now, for example, take over the Rafah crossing and not allowing Hamas to take aid in. And Egypt is not allowing them to handle the aid, by the way, because they told Egypt, we're happy, we'll handle it. Egypt told them, we're not recognizing you on the Rafah crossing. And Israel's frustrated with that, by the way. And there's been leaks about Egypt potentially freezing, at least freezing, or taking down the level of relationship they have with Israel. They tried to stir division between the Palestinian people, particularly in Gaza, because that's their aim now. Obviously, their whole aim is all of the Palestinian people. These people don't recognize the existence of a Palestinian people. You see, they call us Arabs. They call us Arabs because we immigrated from other Arab states to Palestine, but poor little Mileikowski didn't travel from Poland. Poor others didn't come from Belarus or the Russian Empire. They didn't come from Hungary or Germany. No. They just went out for a trip. And then they came back. Anyway, they want to stir division. What do? Division between the people and the resistance. What do the people say? Some of them holding their children with them, bodies of their children, hailing the resistance. Continue to resist. People coming out from under the rubble with a victory sign. Kind of people. What kind of people are they? People of Gaza teaching the world lessons. People watch Hollywood movies. People watch Hollywood movies about these fake superheroes. The superheroes are in Gaza. The real superheroes. It didn't work. Now you have 6 resistance movements all at once, bombing Israel, destroying them everywhere. Hamas, PIJ, Fatah, DFLP, PFLP, Kataib al-Mujahideen, alongside others as well. But this is what we saw verified today, as in they admitted that they conducted operations. Wreaking havoc against the child murdering, genocidal, satanic death cult forces. That's what I spoke about earlier. What I wanted to speak to you about today, 2 things. Number 1, this fire in Tel Aviv. Tal HaShomer is the biggest IDF base in Israel. How comes there's a fire? Well, what do you mean fire? There was a report in the Times of Israel, just a report. Firefighters are battling a large fire at a warehouse complex in the Tel HaShomer military base in Ramat Gan. That's next to Tel Aviv. The warehouses were used to store various equipment. It's not just for equipment, by the way. The Fire and Rescue Services says 28 firefighting teams are at the scene. The cause of the blaze is under investigation. Nothing. That's it. Israel didn't say anything else. 28 firefighting teams. That's a huge fire. In my opinion, could have been a couple of things. An accident is possible, obviously. No, very likely though. 2, arson. This army is split. They hate each other. The defense minister threatened the prime minister to bring a division of the army to set order into the prime minister's office, told him, next time I'm going to bring a Golani brigade to set order. The army is split. There is reason for someone inside of Israel to commit arson. That's number 2. 3, the resistance. Primarily Hezbollah. Primarily. Don't forget we had a targeted assassination today in Lebanon. And Hezbollah always declare that they will respond. Many times Hezbollah sent their drones into Israel, deep into Israel. Not only Hezbollah, the Palestinian resistance too. Drones flying over Israeli cities, monitoring, taking cameras, anything undetected by the Iron Foam or the nylon dome. Nylon wasn't working properly. Why? They also take down Iron Dome batteries, the Palestinian resistance and Hezbollah. These are the 3 scenarios for that fire. It's difficult to obtain information in Israel. Everything is under military censorship. Apparently, with all of this bombardment in the last couple of days, well, they admit like 20 casualties or something. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 5 troop carriers destroyed in 2 days. That's just the troop carriers, apart from over 30 tanks. Each troop carrier has 17 people, and they're using the M113, the rusty old M113 from the 60s. Yassin 105 blows it to pieces. Why? Because Hamas and the Palestinian resistance, they destroyed all of the Tiger. all of the Tiger. And by the way, Israel's not using Merkava 5, they're using Merkava 4. Over 1,200 Israeli vehicles the Palestinian resistance took down. Do you know, can you comprehend that number for a second? Why don't they tell you this information, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know. Why is it not available on mainstream media? The Palestinian resistance verified, documented videos, over 1,200 genocide forces vehicles taken down, over of which tanks. Isn't this relevant information? Why not? Why don't you show it to the public? Take some of my work. Do me a favor. No, they'll tell you what the clowns are saying. Clowns in the government. Anyone who's either paid by the Zionist lobby or was in some nice girl and was recorded, or is morally depraved. I mean, these are three options for supporting Israel, right? What other option do you have? There is no other option. That's the first part. Then you have what? The latest stats. You see the Palestinian resistance and the Lebanese resistance, they're conducting such precise operations against the Israeli occupation forces, and Israel is still targeting civilians, innocent civilians. And now we have a recent report from the Euromed Human Rights Monitor. What did they say? The Euromed Human Rights Monitor, they had a very detailed report about the level of destruction in Gaza, details of the genocide. You see, you have these twisted people. Part of the previous group that I was just speaking to you about, number 1, 2, and 3, paid, caught, or depraved, doubting that there's a genocide. Look at the stats. 7th of October up until 13th of May 2024. Killed, 43,640. 15,971 children. 10,382 women. And they're including people presumed dead under the rubble. 81,560 injured. 141 journalists killed. 2 million displaced. That's all of the population of Gaza. What, they have 2.3 million? All of the population is displaced. 136,700 homes destroyed. Almost 300,000 homes partially destroyed. 179 destroyed or damaged press headquarters. 459 damaged schools. 2,340 destroyed industrial facilities. 667 damaged mosques. 3 damaged churches. 931 casualties from the healthcare profession. 371 of which killed. 332 healthcare facilities damaged or destroyed. 29 of which hospitals, 76 clinics, 227 ambulances trying to reach people to save their lives. One of them was Little Hind, after whom they named Hamilton Hall. They called it Hind Hall. She was one of them. 203 heritage sites. 214 civil defense workers, 45 of which killed. Detainees and forcibly disappeared, 3,140. And Some people are doubting that this is a genocide. Some people are doubting that this is a genocide. Clearly, the Israeli army is targeting the people, the infrastructure, every lifeline in Gaza, every single lifeline in Gaza, whilst the resistance is targeting them militarily. On the 7th of October, they targeted them militarily. They took down Israel's most advanced division, the Gaza division, 16 bases under 1 hour. Took all of them down. Kidnapped commanders in their underwear. Took them to Gaza. Then they raided 1948 occupied territories. I say recaptured territories, not occupied territories for them. Why? Because these were the areas that they were expelled from. You see, 72% of Gazans are refugees from where? From what's now called Israel. Who expelled them? Israel. Who's not allowing them back? Israel. Supremacist ethnocracy. Religious supremacist state. Violent, genocidal country. Obviously, and I keep repeating this because it's very important, Israel committed the massacre on the 7th of October. Massacring Israelis in the Nova Festival, massacring Israelis in Ra'im, in Nir Oz, in Be'eri, with so many witness statements from Israel from day one. And they spin it. And they spin it and they sell the lie. But it was a complete package, by the way, in the beginning. There were the 40 beheaded babies, the raped women, Then they had to retract. Even the president himself of the United States had to say, oh no, I'm not sure. And then they started conducting the Zio Wood tours. So if you want a Zio Wood tour in reference to Zionist Hollywood in Israel, you go to Israel. You act like a journalist, show your ID, and they'll take you on a Zio Wood tour in the same kibbutzes that they destroyed. Planted evidence, ridiculous stuff, really. I mean, some people who went there exposed it to an extent. Although, if someone invited me, I wouldn't even go there. I have people being butchered, I'll tell them open, I want to go see what's happening in Gaza. Right? And they're still committing this massacre. But when it comes to the resistance, again, attacking Israeli forces. To a level where one of my viewers made a nice comment. I'm sorry I forgot the name. He said that Hamas is now the collateral damage in Gaza. They're targeting the civilians, and if anyone dies from Hamas, it's collateral damage. Because they're at war with the people. Which is so true. So true. Absolutely true. Let me open the space up for you. Firstly, Mudassar, thank you so much for your super thanks. And John McGuire, thank you so much for your super thanks. And thank you for everyone who's obviously already contributing. And I'm sorry if I missed one. And also, Stephen, thank you for your super thanks. I really appreciate all of you. Okay, let's go to your comments. Mahmoud, can you explain more about the balloon? That's Imdad. It's a surveillance balloon. And Hezbollah is not declaring whether they obtained. They most likely did obtain information. Hezbollah already have information without this balloon, by the way. Listen, Hezbollah have live intel about Israel 24/7. The Palestinian resistance does too. That's why they know where Israel is headed, and they attack them from the back. They know what they're doing. Hezbollah, though, it's as if the Israeli army is working for them, giving them the information. Unbelievable intelligence, unbelievable. They will send a drone to an Israeli town, a drone, suicide drone with a camera, to an Israeli town. They will target the exact room that an Israeli surveillance command team is based in. What is this? What is this? They know where they are 24/7. Israel establishes a new base. They know. They target it. Moment they open. What is that? What is that? Where are they getting the information from? It's as if they have people working for them in the Israeli army to that level. And Israel doesn't have an answer. Israel doesn't have an answer to their army being infiltrated so badly, or is unable to secure information and details and data from their one of their biggest enemies. And again, many people, it's like they don't even talk about that. I always talk about it because it's fascinating. The level of information that they're getting, it's as if, like I said, someone from Israel is getting them, or they have these ultra sophisticated systems monitoring everything. It's as if they have access to everything to do with the IDF. And most likely they'll take down info from that balloon as well. Jameson, salam from this American Jew. Welcome, shalom, my brother, welcome. And everyone else, Walid and the Badger and Omar, our member, Sandy from LA, Eva, everyone, welcome. Khalid Razzaq. I'd like to know why Egypt hasn't pushed Israel out of this Philadelphia no-go zone. Look, underwhelming, to say the least, is the level of response from the Arab states. You have Israel, a neo-colonialist, supremacist, violent, genocidal occupying force, committing genocide against everyone, using the Israeli children as cannon fodder. Let's not forget that. They manipulate them and brainwash them to use them as cannon fodder in endless wars. Bloodthirsty death cult. That's what Israel is. They don't care about the Israeli people. They don't care about the Palestinian people. They don't care about anyone. Greed, control, money. That's what they're about. If they cared about the Israeli people, would they have carpet bombed Gaza with Israelis inside it? Can anyone with an ounce of logic believe that? What kind of a twisted individual would believe that, would buy this nonsense? They don't care about anyone. They're using their own people for this Zionist, malicious, racist, violent project. Supported by who? The enlightened democracies of the West. The enlightened powers of the West, who always preach about human rights, animal rights, environment. Environment. Let's talk about the environment. How bad is war for the environment? How bad is war for the environment? You have these tanks, no fuel filters, everything comes out from the engine, black smoke, right? Bombing the living daylight out of people, causing diseases and all sorts. Have you thought about it from an environmentalist perspective? Hamas is eco-friendly. They reuse Israeli bombs. They're even defeating Israel from the environment side. They take, bombs from F-16s, they land on children and women. Subhanallah, they don't detonate for some reason. Hamas take them and reuse them. Whereas Israel, they're not eco-friendly. They're not good for the environment. So they're not looking at anything really when it comes to Israel. Everything is fine. So Egypt, in short, lots of talk when it comes to the Philadelphia corridor, not much action. They previously said it's a red line, it's a this and that. And before that, invading Gaza was a red line. No, don't invade Gaza. There were like talks. They invaded, they raided, they destroyed everything. Now they go to Rafah. They're teasing you as well, raising this 401 brigade flag next to Egypt. Same brigade that was in Sinai, right? Teasing them. But they're threatening, like we might do something with the peace treaty or what have you. Underwhelming, to say the least. Underwhelming. And whilst this genocidal state is getting an air bridge of weapons and support from Western powers, you have the Arab states and Muslim states next to the Palestinians ignoring them. It's as if nothing's happening. Now, forget about the Arab states and forget about the Muslim states and forget about the Western powers. Human beings are suffering. Human beings are suffering anywhere in the world. How can a human being sit down and... If animals were butchered somewhere, the British government and the American government would be calling, whoa, hey, why are you killing animals? Hello. Not when it comes to the Gazans. No. Why? Again, the rich history of genocide. What Israel's doing is peanuts to these people. Million in Iraq, million in Afghanistan, 7 million Vietnam, Hiroshima, 250,000 now. Lindsey Graham is saying nuke Gaza too. No remorse for the death of innocent people, innocent women, children. What kind of human beings are we talking about? What is that? No regard for human life whatsoever. And yeah, Egypt, again, a couple of things here and there, nothing enough to prevent the genocide. Saudi Arabia, lavish projects, 2-kilometer building, this and that, and Riyadh season, and that's the world that we live in. But there's people like you. There's so many decent human beings. Throughout this journey, I got to know so many good people. All of you, number one. Then so many decent people, ladies and gentlemen. In Britain, such decent people. In the US, such decent people. Across European countries, so many good people. Really. You see so many people with good hearts standing up for a cause very far away, although they're under pressure and there's spin and there's fear being instilled in them. No, they'll go the extra mile. They'll review. They will unlearn things, the manipulation. They'll overcome and they will speak. That's good. There's good in humanity. And that gives us hope. So it shouldn't only be Egypt, but these people, they do have more responsibility, to say the least. Your responsibility is for the person who's closest to you, like your individual responsibility. The first people you're in charge of in your life are, number one, you. Take care of yourself, of your well-being, your mental well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being. Take care of yourself and love yourself. Then your family, your loved ones, you're responsible for them. Then the people closest to you, your neighbors, right? This is how we do it, right? On an individual basis. Now imagine on a state level, a country next to you, people being slaughtered. How can you not act? How can you not act? That was from Khalid Razzaq. Mark Bolan is saying Netanyahu's son has a sore throat. That's why he can't find. No, he's with his girlfriend in Miami. I don't know what kind of woman is willing to be with this boy. What kind of woman can be with him? And the Israelis are criticizing him. Like, there were protests in Israel the other days, and some of the Israeli protests were criticizing Benjamin Netanyahu and his "we'll fight with our fingernail" statement. So one of them told Netanyahu, fight with whose fingernails? Your son who's in Miami? Will he fight with his fingernails? Or is he busy doing other stuff with his fingernails in Miami? Ah. Mr. Sharif is saying, is it true that Egyptian soldiers are fed up with their generals not taking action? Rafah, what are the risks of soldiers taking over the government? Look, there are many soldiers in the Egyptian army, and the Egyptian people, by the way, the Arab people, the Muslim people, all of the nations across of God, they don't like Israel, to say the least. Especially the Egyptian people, by the way. The Egyptian people cannot stand Israel. I'll tell you why. They've had a peace treaty for what, over 40 years now? 50 years almost. Just over 40 years. Did we have millions of Egyptian visitors to Israel? No. Why is that? The government made peace, not the people. So remember that. And the Egyptian army consists of people from Egypt, Egyptian people. They must be dissatisfied. But what you also need to remember is that Egypt is a state run by the military. So order and military order and following commands and everything is very rigid. The army in Egypt has its own economy. They have a counter economy. If Egypt collapses, the army will survive. They have factories, they have food factories, weapons factories, hospitals, everything. It's a state within a state. But the people are definitely not happy. However, the level of following orders and command and how the state is run and how the army is running, you have Sisi running, a man who came by military coup, is very, very strict from that perspective. All it takes is the head of the armed forces lifting his thumb when it comes to Israel. They will go kamikaze in Israel. They're capable of doing that. But obviously, they follow orders. They follow orders. And they haven't been ordered to do something or wage a war or what have you. And these orders are exactly 1 inch into Egyptian territory. As twisted as it may seem or sound, that's it. And when I said it from day one, like when people were talking about Turkey and Egypt joining in, I said if their national lands, if their sovereignty is under attack, then they will join. Not when there's a genocide in Gaza. They'll speak, they'll say, they'll support, they'll diplomatically support, money, politically, what have you, ICJ, okay, not military. Although military is what's required. Why? Israel hasn't shown that it understands anything but the use of force. Occupied Sinai, how did they leave? War. Occupied South Lebanon, how did they leave? War. Occupied Gaza, how did they leave? War. Not by someone asking, hello, international community, US government, Biden, can you help us out here, please? We've been under occupation for 75 years. Can you please help us? Then the US will say no, but please, they care about you. Beggar. They don't care about beggars. They care about people who have power. This is how it works. It's unfortunate, but this is how it works. They rule by power. We're in the Wild West. The law of the jungle is more merciful than the world that we live in now, by the way. The law of the jungle is more merciful than these people in power. When it comes to their political greed, financial greed, control, hegemony attempts, all of these things. Got Milk is saying, I've always been an atheist, but the Spirit of Palestine, both Christian, Pastor Mundir Isaac, and Islam, most Palestinians in general, have taught me the beauty and power of what faith is. Absolutely. And I'll add to that. It's taught people who follow these religions as well what the spirit and faith is of these people, not just atheists. Because some people follow religion as a tradition, really, not by practice. And even if you do practice, you're overwhelmed by these people and their faith and the divine blessings on them. It's truly overwhelming. DJ Scotch and Soda saying, Mahmoud, in Europe, they're telling us in the news that Palestinian rockets cannot penetrate Merkava tanks. Don't listen to me, dude. That's the thing. Of course, they won't tell you. They're not interested in enlightening you. Like anyone who thinks mainstream media is there to give him the real truth, the real news, is delusional. They're there to control you, manipulate you, and instill fear in you. They control through fear. They don't control through enlightenment. They don't want that. They want to control through fear. Be fearful and shut up because we're here to help you. Don't listen to me. Go to these people. Go to their website, the Resistance, or, if some Arab networks, say they publish stuff, you want to. That's the thing. If some people are doubting like what I tell them or whatever, even though I sometimes show pictures or what have you, YouTube has a problem with videos, especially when it comes to Western crowds, by the way. But everything's so if you go and look and see, you see in front of your eyes. But obviously they'll spin everything. Mainstream media is telling you that it's not a genocide. Mainstream media is telling you that Israel is fighting terrorists in Gaza. That's what the mainstream media is telling you, right? The whole pseudo narrative is now done. That's it, roasted. That's why many people don't watch them even. And like I said, if you want enlightenment, you don't follow them. You do your own work. And some people have an idea that like truth is something easy to access. No, it isn't. Although we live in a day and age where it's easier for you to obtain it if you research. It's a tough job. Similarly to anything else in life, if you want to succeed and know more, and physically, if you want to be, in a better, healthy state, it takes effort. It takes some pain sometimes as well. Same thing with the truth and knowledge. You're going to have to overcome the clouds in your brain and opening your eyes. Peripheral vision. Look at everything. Not just through this blind small lens that they put on your eyes on the screens 24/7. So of course they won't say that, but that's why I always say it, because that's what's happening. I didn't have time today. I was gathering everything for all of the statements, all of the videos, all of the confirmation, to see a long list of Palestinian resistance accomplishments against who? Against the forces committing genocide, against the child murderers, against the depraved TikTok soldiers who post videos of them with butchered children's bicycles and women's underwear that they robbed, squatting in Gaza. Everything is available, but it takes an effort to dig. Deep State, where does Hamas get its supplies during the time of war? They produce and they have tunnels. What? Israel didn't catch anything from the tunnels. Any tunnel Israel found, they were led to it by the resistance because it was trapped. and they get buried inside it. Hamas has a network of dummy tunnels in Gaza. They attract Israeli forces to them, explode them. The network. Israel didn't touch the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the network of tunnels in Gaza. And that extends to Egypt and to territories inside of the occupied territories in Israel. And they manufacture a lot. They work around the clock. And they extend their tunnels every day as well. I said the other day in 2021 when there was an escalation, the Hamas leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, he had an interview in which he said, we were asking for the fighters to stop working because they were working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours digging and producing. And they would say, no, we don't want to. So you have more than enough people working as well. Teshikoma, US claim that Diaper Force has amassed enough force in the south. Does this include mercenaries? Well, if they mean they amassed enough diapers, then probably, but enough forces, enough for what? They've had head-to-head clashes in Rafah crossing today. The Palestinian resistance had face-to-face, zero-distance clashes with Israeli forces in Rafah crossing today and in other parts of Rafah and all across of Gaza. No force, nothing whatsoever. They don't have enough forces. Half of their forces are casualties. And now the IDF chief, he had a statement during a speech where he is also then begging the ultra-Orthodox community in Israel, saying there is no contradiction between your religious and national obligations. Why would he say that? He's still desperate for people. At least half of the Israelis wouldn't go and die for Netanyahu. Take it that way. The other half, they wouldn't go and die for anything whatsoever. The people who are fighting in Gaza, who are they? Squatters from the West Bank. The religious Zionists of the West Bank, and they're different to the ultra-Orthodox Jews. In Israel, you have religious Zionism, and you have ultra-Orthodox, and you obviously have liberal religious people too, and obviously the majority are secular. So these ones are the religious Zionists, the squatting crew from the West Bank. Talal Mansour is playing, Lebanon is playing volleyball with the cult. Not even volleyball. I wouldn't say volleyball. Lebanon is playing a one-man game with Israel. So either the throwing thing or what have you. Because what is Israel attacking in Lebanon? Okay, you're assassinating a couple of people here and there. Hezbollah have, over 160 martyrs or so. And some Lebanese innocent civilians as well. Apart from that, what are you doing? And again, look, how do you measure the success of a military campaign? By the declared objectives of the military campaign. What are the declared objectives of the military campaign in Gaza? Eliminating Hamas, preventing Gaza from posing a threat ever again on Israel, and what? Getting back the prisoners. What's the ultimate goal? The genocide, the ethnic cleansing. Did they accomplish anything? No. Will they? No. What is their aim with Hezbollah? Take Hezbollah off the border. It will never happen. Hezbollah's coming on top of the border soon. They're gonna be in Israel, in modern, they'll liberate lands, Hezbollah. They'll be in the Galilee. These people are delusional. And again, you say it, instead of reaching a solution, and the solution is easy. What's the solution? Equality. How do you implement equality? Give everyone from the Jordan River to the sea equal rights. Who will complain afterwards? The bigots, the depraved, they will complain. Okay, you don't like it, get the hell out of here. Go somewhere else. Every human being is equal. Equal in terms of the rights that they can have. Anyone who has a problem with that, they can go on an island. They can go and create a supremacist state on a remote island. Collect money, they have enough money, collect some donors, go and buy an island and declare the kingdom of the depraved or something. And have fun. But if you want to live in the world where you have people everywhere almost from every nationality, every religion, every ethnic background or whatever, we're equal. We're equal. Don't let anyone distort this. We're equal human beings in rights. Obviously, there's another debate about the equality in terms of capability and what have you. That's a different story. There's people who know more, people who know less. That's different. Equality in rights and universal human rights. Everyone should have access to the same rights as a human being. But the bigots and the supremacists, they will never like that. They never want that. And they'll sell it in any which way possible. Instilling fear, labeling, scapegoating, everything. Jack Ayub, Brother Mahmoud, how are you doing, Habibi? White blood cells, brother, white blood cells. Jack Ayub, ladies and gentlemen, he was unwell a few days ago, and I advised him to take the resistance pill. He took it and he felt better now. So, Alhamdulillah, Jack Ayub is okay now. I'm glad to hear that, brother. And I told you, if it gets worse, take the Iranian antibiotics. They usually eliminate the problem. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing well. Talal Mansour, interesting question. How come the Muslim sheikhs don't voice their resistance against the... You know, there's a term in Islamic terminology. If you read jurisprudence and Islamic history, the term is called ulama al-balat. The scholars of the castle. This is how it was translated to English. The scholars of the castle, the scholars of the king. That's here to this day. Scholars of the king. They will say what pleases the king. They're on their payroll. So whatever the state says, they'll say. And obviously there's a thin line, not a thin line. There's a big debate as to how can a religious figure in a state that is sovereign and independent issue an order if it goes against the state. That's another very important debate, by the way. And it's a very dangerous territory. So most of them, especially when you talk about the top people who run the biggest institutions, Muslim scholars in the Muslim world, you're talking about people who are on government payroll. Others, you need to be very careful, because then you would be considered to be pushing people to do something against the state. And in Islamic history, you had wars because of that. Bloody wars. And in all honesty, there should be a limit, obviously. However, what I would say is, even if you're not declaring, for example, or issuing religious order for someone, you have to do that, for example, or what have you. You need to at least be vocal against the crimes and present the truth to people as it is. Because the last thing you want is everyone wreaking havoc everywhere. But many of them are not doing that. Many of them are actually doing the opposite. Like I've seen some Muslim scholars telling you, oh no, the resistance is wrong. It's haram to support them. They're not Muslim. Do you think I need your opinion anyway? Do I need your opinion? All you need is a pair of eyes and a functioning brain and a decent moral compass to see what's happening. But some of them fool people. Some of them fool people. Some of them play on the ugly sectarian side as well and stir division everywhere. And some will tell you, even if you see the whole world standing with Palestine, they'll inject sectarian poison inside. Ugly stuff, I'm telling you. What's happening is a blatant thing. Very blatant. You have an attack, a brutal attack on basic human rights. And you have a resistance acting on behalf of every free person in the world. That's what you have. I don't care what the color of their flag or who they are. What? Did people not support the Vietnamese resistance? Who are they? What's their religion? What's my affiliation with them? They were people being brutally slaughtered by an imperial greedy power. And you need to be consistent with your morals. If you're not morally consistent, you're immoral. That's how I see it. You can't say my morals apply here and don't apply there. So I hope that clarifies. Michelle Norris is saying, my father grew up in Belfast, Northern Ireland, during sectarian violence and an army of occupation on his doorstep, but he never taught his children to be racist against another country, race, or religion. Your father, you should be proud of that, because that's how decent people act. You should be proud of your father. Even now, look at what's happening now. Country speaking on behalf of Judaism. It's very easy to say, oh, the Jewish state, right? No. These people are abusing religion, using it as a tool against their own people, number one, against other people to sell it to the world. And no, you should never be racist against people, race, or religion. And that's how any decent human being would function, really. You can't fight racism with racism. You can't fight hate with hate. You can't fight bigotry with bigotry. You fight racism with openness. You fight hate with love. And you fight bigotry with compassion. But sometimes the love is tough. Sometimes you need some tough love. Marvin Vergus, you think China, Russia, and North Korea supplying equipment to Hamas, Hezbollah, and third parties? If not directly, then they're somehow reaching. So Hamas does have some Russian weapons. They have a Chinese sniper. And by the way, they made a superior replica. They called it Al-Ghul. They named it after one of their leaders who was assassinated, called Adnan Al-Ghul. And it reaches further and it does more damage. And there have been a couple of North Korean weapons in Gaza. With regards to Hezbollah, they have even more. And obviously Iran is involved too. But look, what people need to understand here is, by the way, much of the Palestinian weapons used in this war are Palestinian made. What was the most effective weapon so far in this war? The Yasin 105, double warhead RPG, named after Ahmad Yassin, the spiritual leader of Hamas who was assassinated. Many of their missiles, explosive devices, all of these things, they manufacture them. So they don't rely heavily on external stuff. And this is how they managed to remain on top when Israel was struggling from its allies. To an extent, obviously. You know, they wanted to continuously bomb with this 1 ton. Then America told them no. They're still arming them, though. But in his latest statement, Joe Biden, when he said we're not sending them the 3,500 missiles that weigh, half of them approximately weigh 1 ton, the other half quarter of a ton, he said we'll continue supplying you with Iron Dome missiles. And that's why there's so much talk in Israel about the urgency to produce their own weapons. But the Palestinians are self-sufficient in Gaza. Marvin, what Arab nations do you see stepping up to help Palestine with money rebuilding when conflict is over? You'll have some money coming in from the Gulf states. You'll have some money coming from North African states. You'll have some money coming in from other countries too, internationally. But there's going to be a lot of money injected. I mean, estimates are approximately 100 billion by now. Manuel, thank you so much for your super. Don't you think that almost no countries in the world is moving a finger for sheer fear of so many Zionists all over the world? Look, when you talk about Zionism and people in power, because it's beyond Zionism as well, Zionism is a front to a bigger operation. It's not just Zionism. The powers that you're talking about, it's a network with multifaceted operations. You have the basics. Basics is the political puppets, the media, right? Has anyone heard about Pluto's, what's it called? Pluto's something of the cave. The allegory of the cave of Pluto. Look into it. I might make a video about it one day. It's been there from a very long time ago. People in power manipulating you, instilling fear in people. And only those who dig and go beyond and see the facade are able to get out of the fear tunnel and see the truth. But with these people, you have a network, obviously the media, the politicians, the puppets, there is a lot of money involved, and there's a network, the blackmailing network. The blackmailing network works either directly with threats or with Epstein-style networks. So there's a lot of money to buy them, obviously, because they print money. Hell, they have money to spare. Talk about disposable income. They have trillions in disposable income. Then you have the leverage networks. Epstein, we don't know all of the list. Who continued that network? We don't know. Are there other networks? Look, we don't know them, but we know they exist, obviously. Now, if you have money on someone, if you have leverage, if you have blackmailing, and if you have someone who's also mentally twisted or morally twisted, you can control them. And these people are in power everywhere. These people are in power everywhere in many, many parts of the world. And what it takes to change that, by the way, is gradually removing the influence of primarily, it's gradual obviously, but primarily money from politics. Because once you remove money from politics, you create more authenticity, not money driven campaigns. And who has the most money and the biggest budget can have the biggest reach and manipulate more people. And then you need to have more transparency. And Lord knows we do not have transparency. Even when it comes to many laws that they pass to do with people's privacy, for example, like Edward Snowden spoke about many of these things. Same WikiLeaks, right? That's why these people are wanted. Okay. So why were they after Assange so much and Snowden? They were revealing what's happening behind closed doors. What is the threat that they use against them? National security. Easiest thing. Threat to national security. Supporting a foreign entity. This and that. So it's possible to change that, but it requires people to be awake, number one, not asleep, and constant calling and activism and calls for reform, for changing how things operate and work. But for now, these are the main things that explain their support for such an atrocious act of genocide. Otherwise, how can a human being with any functioning moral compass support this? Or be quiet or cover it up? How can you do that? How can you do that? Where were we? Maurice Eisenman. How is the USA supporting militarily Israel unconditionally? Doesn't that give arguments for Turkey and Egypt to support Palestine? Everyone has an argument. They have an argument by international law. Preemptive strikes. If you have a country committing genocide barbarically against people and they have a vast history, a rich history in attacking its neighboring nations, you have every legitimate right under the sun to conduct a preemptive strike against them. Israel, they started Israel, they occupied the land, went out to West Bank and Gaza, occupied, went to Sinai, occupied, South Lebanon, occupied, strikes in Iran, strikes in Syria, strikes in Iraq, strikes in Lebanon. You have every argument under the sun to stop this with a preemptive strike, even before they do anything. Give them an ultimatum. You don't give these people their rights, but they don't. They have the international law backing, UN resolutions, right? But we already spoke about like the UN resolutions. Income papers, just an extension of the US empire. Created by the US post World War II to ensure the dominance of the United States and to reach the more challenging places that the US cannot reach directly. Otherwise, how can anyone explain a Security Council sitting there doing nothing against this genocide? So many UN resolutions, nothing. The world's biggest court, the ICJ, ordering this genocidal state called to stop its genocide, and it's continuing. How can you explain that? Because there is no law. There is no law. There is power. That's the world that we live in. And that must change. We must have laws that protect First and foremost, human beings equally. International laws must be respected, orders must be respected, and everything must be based on solid, equal laws that give people universal human rights equally. So many things would have been avoidable and so much bloodshed. But that's not the case. Now they will cover that up with their spinning, obviously. Like with the ICJ case. How many times did you visit like mainstream media and saw the ICJ case on the headline? Never. When the ICJ case was discussing Russia, was it on the headlines or not? It was. As a matter of fact, 1 month into the invasion of Ukraine, you already had an order from the ICJ against Russia. Or to smell them, how can there be laws when one group literally believe they are God's chosen people and no outsiders are allowed? Look, that's an interesting point. You see, the way I view it is, if you want to believe you're God's chosen people, go ahead and believe. So long as this God's chosen people is not being translated as a violent oppression, occupation, and an excuse for genocide against other people. People in the world have different beliefs, right? We're never going to share the same belief. So if you want to believe you're God's chosen people, go ahead, be my guest. Okay. If you want to believe that. Okay. But when you're taking this God's chosen people to God level, not even God level, whoa, what are you talking about? These people act like they're above God. It's as if they're above Him. Telling you God's chosen people, which is all based on a facade, by the way, nothing substantiated. But they believe that. Now, Israel, although I am convinced that Israel, based on the history of Zionism and how it was established and who established it, to this day, is using Zionism, using Judaism as a front for Zionism, which is a Western neo-colonialist, violent, racist project in Palestine. I firmly believe that these people are lying with that. But saying that, they call themselves a Jewish state. They commit a genocide in the name of Judaism. They say they're God's chosen people. They call the Palestinians subhuman, human animals. And they're being accepted by the British government and by the US administration and by other governments. That's fine. Imagine for 1 second you had a Muslim state. 1 second. Muslim state. We're God's chosen people. We are the God's chosen people. And there's a Jewish community there, or a Christian community, or whatever community. And the Muslim people are committing massacres against them. Would they receive the same support from the enlightened governments of Britain and the US and EU countries? Would they? No. Why is it allowed for Israel? It's allowed for Israel because Israel is implementing their project in Palestine in the name of Judaism. Said it before, I'll say it again. Zionism was the final solution to the Jewish question that was raised in Europe. European leaders were sitting there. We need to find a solution for the Jewish problem. They called it the Jewish problem. Not the Arab and Muslim states. In Palestine, even Jewish communities from centuries ago. Jewish and Christian communities were there before the Muslims in Arab countries and in Palestine. Talking about Zionism, though. They had a problem in Europe. They exported it. Who committed it? Zionism. With what? Using Judaism as a front. Easy, because it's easy to manipulate people with religion. It's sacred, it's God, it's not you. And, most people don't really question that much when it comes to faith, right? Let alone their own religion. So they fool people, indoctrinate them, manipulate them, create this ethnocracy, call it Israel, and anything that goes against it is anti-Semitic. That's what they do. And Real Sheikh Apia, thank you so much for your super thanks. Let me see if we have anything else before we wrap up. Got Milk is saying a quote from Smadar Levi, saying Zionism is a European ideology of Ashkenazi nationalism that seeks to colonize Palestine in order to establish Jewish nationalist states. Smadar Levi, Mizrahi Jewish. Yeah, and many other as well. Even Israeli historians say that. Schleim, Pape, even though Pape is from European descent, if I'm not mistaken, Schleim is from an Arab descent. But anyone who digs deep in history, and obviously you need to get out of the bubble too. It's not that easy to do that, get outside of the manipulation bubble, because when you talk about, like, even when we talk about the Israeli public, there are some people who are vocal to the right level in Israel. Few, not many, in the Israeli community, obviously. They will say things as they are. What does that require for them? That requires going against your state's ideology and perception of religion, your society's ideology and perception of religion, and in many cases, your family's perception of nationality and religion. And it takes a lot to do that, but they still do that. Omar Zakut saying, have you heard of someone called Rudy Israel? He is described as a Judean warrior seeking to bridge the gap between Palestinians and Israelis. He wears a keffiyeh with Hebrew lettering. No, I haven't actually. Okay. Where did we reach? Okay, I'll finish it up with that one. Uptown Bay Area. Are there areas in Israel where they don't feel war is going in their backyards? If you mean as in a direct impact in terms of being bombed or what have you, then yes. Some places in Israel you don't really have that much attacks in them regularly, obviously. Central Israel, most likely. But what this war has done is the feel of war and uncertainty exists everywhere in Israel. And when you talk to anyone, they will tell you that the feeling is like no other feeling before it. So Israel had wars previously, they had escalations, and there were very tense periods, but there is nothing like what's happening in Israel at the moment, even in areas that are less affected by this war. And we'll wrap it up with that. Again, thank you so much for everyone who joined me tonight. I'm sorry if I missed some of the comments. Keep going back and up, even though if you do a live or a top or whatever. But I'm here regularly anyway, so join me. During the week in any of my other live streams too, I'm here. Special thanks to Stephen, John, Mudassar, Eslinsky, Goat Milk, Manuel, Khaled, and Real Sheikapia for all of your supers. Thank you to all of the members and moderators and subscribers and the viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your week, and I will hopefully be with you very soon. Take care and peace.